Welcome to the week 4 go-to session. Yay! This is the final session of the month. Um, Gosh, every month feels the same. I assume it feels the same for students as it does instructors, where it's both a long month with a lot to do, and yet it flies by. It's like a sprint more than a marathon. It's a sprint, but it has so much to do that it feels like a marathon when you're in the middle of it. But yeah, we're in week 4. Okay, so you can see the screen. I hope you can see my screen, but here's week 4. Week 4 is a little bit different than other weeks. So really, this session is going to be very short, as I was explaining to people before I started the recording, 25 minutes maybe, because really it's just wrap-up stuff. Notice there is no Achieve module to work on. The one you completed last week is the final one, and that's been replaced by this activity, peer review, which is actually worth more points than the typical Achieve module. So I do want to spend most of my time talking about peer review. It's already open, though, because I think some people are still working on essays. That's a reminder too. Okay, so people are handing in essays, okay? And as usual, it's going to take me time to get through them because we're all so swamped. This is kind of behind the scenes information that you probably don't need to know about. But yeah, we're just swamped in general. Like there are certain months where enrollment is high. So most instructors are teaching an extra section. So even though, yes, we try to aim for a 72-hour turnaround time from the time that assignment is due, we've actually been given a 4-day turnaround because we're all teaching extra people. So yeah, that means I have as a goal like Thursday at midnight. And you just kind of know how past weeks have worked, right? I'm pretty flexible. So if it takes me until Thursday at midnight, I think last week there were like I don't know, 10 people whose work I actually graded overnight into the early morning hours of Friday. But I sort of told everybody that if you need extra time, if you need to hand it in on Monday or Tuesday, that's perfectly okay. Because, yeah, the goal is that things are typically due on a Sunday. We aim to get it turned back in 72 hours, which would be Wednesday at midnight. And then everybody gets 4 full days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, of course, if it takes me an extra day or a day and a half to grade something, I'll give those days back. Excuse me. The same thing with this week's activities. I know it creates a little bit of a problem because the course officially ends this Sunday and then new classes start next week. I do think that like lots of students want to have the course over and finished and out of their heads by Sunday. But if you need to go beyond that, you can have it. Um, and even if you have new classes that start, usually the first day or two, like there's not that much going on. Although if you're on campus, you might physically be in a building for quite a number of hours. But still, you have the extra time if you need it, okay? So that's the update. Of course, I will be spending most of this week grading essay drafts. But you're going to get feedback from me, and you're going to get feedback also from 2 of your classmates, hopefully 2 of your classmates. Okay, so peer review is actually already underway. It's open. You can start on it whenever you like. It ends on Friday. And here's an important message. If you want to put this in your weekly journal entry as proof that you watch the journal, or it's one of your pieces of proof that you watch the journal, peer review is the one activity I cannot extend. Like, even if I wanted to, I can't extend it because once it starts moving, once it's in process, I can't stop it. Like, yeah, I can change the date on FSO, but I can't go into turnitin.com and change things, which is where peer review is completely handled. Actually, let's talk about peer review. Okay, so let me log into Turnitin. So yeah, when it ends Friday at midnight, it ends. So make sure that you get it done before Friday. Peer review is not a difficult activity. Okay, so here you're seeing things from a teacher's end. I want to make sure that nobody sees grades. That would be embarrassing. You can see though, look, 43 people so far have handed in their essay. I expect more to be handed in tonight. Okay, so let's go into peer review. And unfortunately, I can't show you exactly what things look like on the student's end. There's no like student view, but I can show you the prompts you have to answer. So in the past, peer review was more open-ended, which was frustrating for students because students would often say, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to write about in terms of this paper that I've just read. Well, we've done kind of the work for you. Okay, so you have 4 prompts. Each prompt contains multiple questions. So I'm not going to read all of them out loud, but you can look at the first one here, right? So which advertisement was chosen? That's your classmate's chosen advertisement. So if your classmate has chosen McDonald's first day, you would say McDonald's first day. What is the thesis as you see it? So you should be able to see a clear thesis, right? Typically, it's the final sentence in the introduction. It's the sentence that lists the three discussion points. If you don't see a thesis, feel free to say, I can't identify a thesis. Or here, what are the main points discussed, right? Those are those three discussion points, three thesis points, three analysis points, whatever you want to call them. The three things that you're going to talk about in the body paragraphs of your essay. You should be able to list these. If you can't, that's probably because they're not listed. Now, sometimes there are essays that are actually quite solid, but maybe they don't have a formal thesis, which is kind of a problem, but it's less of an issue because you can clearly see like they have three discussion points. They have three paragraphs where they talk about, I don't know, the ad's use of color, the ad's camera work, the ad's other thing, okay? But still, you should be able to spot those 3 points. If you don't see them, it is fine to point out, okay? Because what we're trying to do is help each other out. You'll get feedback from me, and I understand the instructor's feedback carries a lot of weight. But you know what? It actually helps a tremendous amount when students take peer review seriously, because as shocking as it might sound, sometimes students resist my feedback. What does he know? I disagree, which I can respect if it's like a subjective thing. But if the student hears it from like 3 people, the instructor and then 2 classmates, then maybe they'll think, yeah, you know what? I don't have a thesis, or I don't have 3 strong discussion points. So it's helpful in that way, just to sort of get some backup. And second, students do focus on things that I just don't see. Like there are excellent points, but I don't notice them. Or maybe my focus is somewhere else so intensely that I don't touch on this other thing. So yeah, if you take this seriously, it can be tremendously helpful. Oh, okay, Joshua's having problems. Yeah, Catherine's right there. Let me quickly type to Joshua. You might leave and re-enter the room. Okay, sometimes sound things can be fixed with just that. So where was I? Yeah, so peer review is helpful in 2 ways, okay? It can either help support my my feedback, or you can notice things that I don't notice. But yes, each prompt has several questions. And notice here, there's a minimum answer length of 100. And when you're in the actual peer review task, you'll have a little bar up top that shows you how close you're getting to 100 words. Now, how often do I count? No, not often. I can usually eyeball it, though. I can tell when something is incredibly short. But yeah, it's pretty rare that I'll copy and paste the text of your answer. But you shouldn't have any problem getting to 100 words. Like all this wording here, if I had to guesstimate, I would say there are probably 60 words here. So it's already more than halfway towards 100. Okay. So yeah, if you're answering all these questions, because each prompt has multiple questions, you shouldn't have a problem getting to 100. Let's see. Most of these you can read on your own. Let me just address some like cautions or pitfalls. For example, in this one here, based on the reflection you've done above, that's kind of confusing. I don't like the way that's worded because the student might think, what reflection? But basically, they're referring to all of these things you just considered. Okay, the big picture stuff, thesis, what are the main points, etc. What questions do you have about the essay? Okay, so yeah, the wording could be improved. What questions do you have about how your peer has presented the essay? Basically, just what questions you have, and they should be questions related to the essay. Okay, they should not be general questions of curiosity, like why did you choose this essay, or did you like this ad, or what would you have done differently if you were the director of this ad? No, they shouldn't be general questions of curiosity. They should be honest questions you have. Okay, and it kind of gets more specific. What would you like to see clarified? What ideas would you like to see more of? I mean, here's the main advice I can give. This is one of those activities where everybody should be receiving A's. Okay, because if you answer these questions with care, then you're doing pretty well. And to answer these questions with care, you also have to answer them specifically. Okay, so yes, you need to read the 2 papers that are distributed to you. They'll be distributed one at a time. read it a second time if you need to. When you're answering these questions, I think you would almost have to go back to the paper to take a look at things. That's what I'm always doing with your own papers or outlines or worksheets. I have to go back to the document itself to remind myself in what paragraph I had this question or this concern. So I would imagine you would be doing the same things. Because here's the problem. If you just race through these questions and answer them super generally, remember last week I was showing the difference between a sentence that might make complete sense to you, but would be vague and mysterious to a general reader, a perfect stranger pulled off the street. Same thing here if you answer these questions too generally. Like if you say, I was totally confused in your second paragraph, but you don't say anything more. The reader might not know what that means. Like, I think my second paragraph is perfectly clear. What are you talking about? Right? But if you specifically explain things, then they shouldn't feel lost. So yeah, I should come away with the sense that you've read these two essays with care, and you've answered these questions with specificity and thoughtfulness. I'm keeping up with the chat here. Joshua is still having sound problems. Let me write real quickly. Joshua, I apologize, but if worse comes to worst, you can always watch the recording. This session will be short, 25 minutes or so. Okay, so back on track, right? So answer these questions that basically prove to me that you've read both essays and you've thought about them. I can't remember if this is in your reading or not. I want to say there's a section you're reading that issues a caution about doing peer review as if you're the instructor. Don't know if I'm making that up. I seem to remember reading that. I read your textbook chapters a long time ago. But either way, I could understand why there's a general caution to think that way. You certainly don't want to take the tone of a know-it-all, or you certainly don't want to talk about what grade you would give it. So in that sense, I agree. But I actually kind of disagree in that you've received a lot of feedback from me all month. You've also been either attending or watching these lectures. So you at this point should understand actually quite well thesis statements, having 3 solid discussion points, the 5-paragraph form, the need to have support, right, in terms of research, what the introduction paragraph should do. So yeah, you should be able to have a wealth of knowledge to draw upon. And I would say if you're at any time confused, just think back to like the things I say or the things we talk about in these lectures. I'm not saying you have to imitate me. But yeah, if it helps you to sort of imagine that you're not the teacher, but maybe the teacher's helper or someone who's just giving someone solid advice because you feel like you've got a good grasp on this assignment or a good grasp on this person's paper. Kind of enter that mindset if you need to. Because the task is to try to give each other helpful information. Okay, and the rest of this you can read on your own. But the gist is I should come away with a strong feeling that, yes, you've read these papers. Yes, you are answering them with some specificity and care. Like you're trying to be helpful and you are being concrete in what you say. If you do that, you'll do fine. Because really, the only other time points are taken off is for proofreading. There is something about online tasks that people get a little bit loose. Like every piece of writing you do for this class, meaning not just a worksheet or an outline, but a message to the instructor, should be aiming for the highest level of professionalism. I usually don't make a big deal or correct people or take off professionalism points. Other instructors do, though. When, for example, I get a message that's written in all lowercase, or it hasn't been proofread, or doesn't contain any punctuation whatsoever. But there is a temptation when the task is entirely online, like you're not even opening up a Microsoft Word document, because you will have like a text box, okay? Underneath each prompt, there will be an empty space for you to type in your response. Make sure that you proofread, because in theory, I'm supposed to be taking off 5 points automatically for every time someone writes for example, doesn't capitalize a word that needs to be capitalized, whether it's the first letter, the first word of a new sentence, or whether it's a pronoun like the word I right? You use the word I, but use lowercase I instead of capital I. Um, or you don't end a sentence with a period, because these are considered very basic rules that even someone who feels like they struggle a bit with writing or English classes, even they know these basic rules, that you begin a sentence with capitalization, that you capitalize a single word like I, that you end a sentence with a period or some other appropriate end punctuation. Now, everybody makes mistakes. I'm even embarrassed sometimes when I reread my own feedback or message and I see that I've made a mistake, usually because it's a stupid keyboard. I've got a new MacBook, and the keyboard, I think I mentioned this in another lecture, it is so thin, like so freaking thin, that you hardly feel the keys when you press them. And it seems like I'm just all thumbs. I don't really have big fat fingers, but with this super thin keyboard, it's just, I know, too much information. You don't care about any of this. What I'm saying is that sometimes it's due to lack of proofreading. Sometimes it's just because, yeah, this keyboard doesn't work well. But either way, because I'm so busy and I just move on, I didn't go back and proofread. So sure, I'll ignore a single slip. I might ignore 2 slips. But when it becomes a pattern, like, oh, wow, this person has paid 0 attention. The entire message or a good portion of the message is all typed in lowercase. That tells me that, yeah, you sat down and you banged it out. There is a difference between this assignment and the typical things you write on Facebook posts, in tweets, in texts, in Reddit threads, okay, where things get very loose because nobody really cares that much. I'm the only anal retentive person who makes sure his texts are perfectly spelled and contain correct punctuation. Nobody else does that. But this is not that, okay? So this is a writing assignment for an English class. So make sure that you proofread, or you might want to compose your answers first in Microsoft Word, then spell check them, run them through grammar check, or just proofread them using your eyes and your brain, and then copy the polished response into the individual text boxes. But I'm not joking. Like, it is on this assignment where I sometimes see a dozen, so not just 1 or 2, like a dozen or 15 obvious slips, okay? And that's when I have to start taking off points, which I hate to do. And that's when students do less well on this assignment than they should. This should be a no-brainer assignment. Again, you have 2 papers, you read them with care, you respond with care. You get a high grade. It is that simple. Joshua's confirming the Mac thing. Yeah, it drives me nuts. I'm like it's a super cool machine. By the way, do all of you have your MacBooks yet? I think it's in month 4 for those of you who are online students that you get your Mac. Usually it's toward the end of this month. Yeah, like Catherine says, she's getting hers on Thursday. It's usually towards the end of the month. So if you're online, month 4. If you're a campus student, I believe you get it right away. So if you're a campus student in English, I think it's a month 2 class. I don't know if we have any campus students here, but if you're an online student, English is typically a month 4 class, and it's during month 4, late in month 4, that you get your laptops. I shouldn't reveal this, but a big reason for it is because they're worried about those of you who maybe don't make it through the program, like early on, and just keep your MacBook. So month 4, you've proven that you can make it through the responsibilities of being a student. Because, yeah, it's a sweet machine. It's an expensive machine. And, yeah, it's light as a feather and it's super thin, but I do not like the new keyboard. Just feel like I'm all thumbs. Like I have no textile. No, textile is the wrong word. Tactile. Like tactile feel of what the keys are doing when I touch it. Anyway, we can talk about MacBooks later. Okay, so does everybody understand the gist of peer review? Pretty simple, right? But remember, it has to be completed by Friday because I can't extend it, even if I wanted to. The 2 other things we need to talk about. You have this bonus, okay? The bonus is basically, we can go into it real quickly. You have 4 things to do. Summarize my feedback, summarize your classmates' feedback, and then address what you're going to do, okay? In terms of what global changes. Global means big picture changes, okay? So global changes don't mean like solving world hunger or, I don't know. No, it means like thesis, content, organization, big picture things. Then local changes are, of course, the opposite. Small stuff like proofreading, grammar, okay? And the reason why global changes are most important, this is why it comes in part 3 instead of part 4, is because why would you worry about fixing individual commas, spelling errors, if maybe there are going to be huge things that need to be changed, right? Like if you don't have a thesis, once you have a thesis and 3 clear discussion points, that might change the entire scope of what you had previously written in your essay draft. Okay, so yeah, you have these 4 parts to fill out. You get bonus points up to 5 points. Here it says if you've incurred any professionalism penalties, you can raise your professionalism grade by up to 5 points. I usually put it in the revision assignment itself, and there's 2 reasons for that. First of all, I hardly ever take off professionalism points. There is a 5-point penalty for missed assignments. There is a 5-point penalty for like something egregious, like I don't know, cursing, telling me off, or insulting a classmate. Or what else? Like if you badly do not follow instructions, like the assignment says to do this, and you hand in something that I don't even know what it is. Like, what is this? This isn't the assignment. Like, there could be a 5-point penalty for not following instructions, things like that. But almost everybody gets like hundreds. Or if they missed a single activity or two, maybe they get a 95 or a 90. It's pretty rare that someone's getting lower than that, unless they've been pretty much MIA all month. Because there'll be so many hundreds, I don't think it makes any sense to give bonus points to professionalism because you can't go higher than 100. Also, professionalism is worth 10% of your grade. The revision assignment is worth 15% of your grade. So 5 points there can actually make a difference. Joshua says, so the final essay should be in by Thursday. If you mean the, I'm a bit confused. If you mean the essay draft that is due right now, people are supposed to be getting it in either last night or tonight. I told people they could have extra time to work on the essay draft because it took me a while to grade everybody's outlines. There were 1 or 2 students I gave more time to because in one student's case, I didn't even know she had handed in an outline. So it took me, I didn't grade it until yesterday. So I basically told her, you can have as much time as you want to work on the essay. But everybody else, yeah, Joshua, I don't know if you're talking about the draft. The essay draft needs to be turned in by Thursday because peer review ends on Friday. If you're talking about the final draft, that's what we're talking about next. Okay, so peer review, bonus. By the way, don't do the bonus if it's not going to lead to any grade change. You can do it if you want, or if you just love getting extra points. But if you can do the math and see that, like, I am solidly in the A category, or I am solidly in some sort of B range, and you don't think the 5 points are going to do anything, yeah, spare yourself. Don't put more stress on your life. Remember, it's up to 5 points. So I will be evaluating how thorough, how good of a revision plan it is. But yeah, it's for this guy here. Okay, so the final assignment for this month is the revision, and I'm not going to talk about this much because I think it's self-explanatory. You've handed an essay draft. You're going to get feedback from me. You're going to get feedback from hopefully 2 of your classmates. Here's a common question that gets asked. It hasn't been asked yet. Do I have to make corrections based on what my classmates say? No. Actually, you don't have to make corrections based on what I say. I think you should consider what I say. I've been doing this for a long time. But no, you're in charge of your own writing. Okay? This is your paper, not mine, not your classmates. And your classmates' feedback, it might be a mixed bag. You might get excellent feedback. You might not get such great feedback. Or some of the things they might say might be spot on, but other things you disagree with. So no, you'll have to just sort through what makes sense, what doesn't. Use what helps you and ignore the rest. But no, you do not have to try to produce a final revision that takes into account everybody's feedback. That would be a disaster. Okay, so you can read through all this on your own. But essentially, revision, do I really need to explain what a revision is? You're going to get feedback on your essay. You need to hand in the strongest draft you can. In theory, this Sunday. If you need extra time, you can have it. Okay, but yeah, this is what we've been working toward: brainstorming worksheet, outline, first draft, and then the revision. Okay, the final draft. Another popular question is, what if I get an A on my essay draft? Okay, I got a 95. Do I have to completely rewrite my paper? No. Okay, some people's revision tasks will be more serious than others. Okay. By the way, I think this is part of the reason why, if you put so much effort into, for example, having a solid outline, and that leads to a solid essay, the reward is that you might not have that much to do, or you might just have to focus largely on cleanup. Okay, so fixing some sentence level things, maybe fixing a few nitpicky APA things, maybe fixing the tiniest like contents issue, or maybe I point out that this quotation isn't terribly useful, so you find a different quotation. Other people might have more to do. Okay. Um, so Joshua's saying something very nice about my feedback. You're welcome. Not everybody's happy. Um, by the way, I don't know if people read my announcement. I know it was a couple weeks ago, but really, this class has been awesome. So let me make sure I say that in the final week. Really, I cannot remember a class that has been this high performing. Like, I've never handed out so many A's and B's in my life. For the week one worksheet, I think there were 64 worksheets that came in, and like 40 of them got some sort of an A. I think I said on my announcement, I said, don't take that as trolling. Like, if you're sitting there thinking, well, I got an 85, does that mean I'm stupid? No, it means that everybody's been doing awesome. Everybody's been passing. Usually it's much more spread out, including a number of people who don't pass at all. I think everybody received a passing grade on the worksheet, and the vast majority were receiving A's and B's. And plus, I don't know if people have noticed this, but this is why it's important to take advantage of those gimme points, those easy points, the weekly journals, the achieve modules, hopefully peer review, because when you just pile up those hundreds, it balances out a grade that maybe you're not so thrilled with. Or maybe you are angry with me because you disagree with that 84 that you received. Ultimately, it doesn't matter because sometimes those other activities balance things out and you still earn an A or a very, very high B or something, right? A good grade. Joshua, no, you should take the feedback that you received on the outline and show the improvements in the essay. Okay. Catherine says something about, can this be ignored because the extension given for the essay draft due today? I'm a little bit confused by that question. What do you mean, current grade being ignored? I'll wait for some clarification on that. But okay. Oh, you have an example of a revision. Okay, so if you click on this guy here, you have a revised version of a past student's work, that Diet Coke essay. And there is a difference. It is a bit stronger than the version you read last week if you took a look at it. So she's got a richer introduction. She's got paragraphs that are kind of a bit fuller and on point. I don't have an example of a Jeep revision because I sort of got it all done at once. So the version you looked at last week is my finished version. Oh yeah. By the way, I should apologize. FSO platform has this annoying thing where it auto grades. So if a student doesn't click complete, suddenly they get a 0 and they panic and they freak out. There is a way to change that. It's just I haven't figured it out yet. So yeah, I've written to a number of students. I should have sent out an announcement, but I'll just say it here because everybody will end up watching or attending this lecture. But yeah, my apologies. And do not freak out when you see that big 0. It's going to, of course, be replaced by the appropriate grade. Matter of fact, I would love to just put 100 in there just so you don't freak out. And but then if it ends up that your grade is an 88, then people get angry. Like, I thought it was 100. No, that was just a placeholder grade. So yeah, don't panic because of the 0. Um, I got to figure that out. I really do, because every month it happens. And I get it from a student's perspective. It's like, you got to be kidding me, because the deadline passed and you said I could have an extension. I got a 0. No, you didn't. The 0 will be replaced. Yeah, it's a super annoying feature. I don't know. And I can turn it off. I just have to figure out how. But it's an auto grading thing. Same thing in week 1. I get panic students who are like, why did I get a 0 on this turn it in, sign up. And I have to explain, well, actually, it doesn't matter if you get a 0 or 100 because it's an ungraded activity. But yeah, the auto grading thing is kind of silly. So yeah, anybody who currently had a 0 show up, it will be replaced. Okay, so do not pay any attention to that. Okay. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else I have to say about revision? You're going to hand in your paper of the best version you can based on my feedback. Um, oh, I guess one thing I have to do remind. There is a penalty for lack of meaningful revision. This is mostly for people who hand in the exact same paper again, or pretty close to it. Now, again, if your essay is already in terrific shape and you do address the small things that you need to, like give it a final proofread, fix some APA issues, that's fine. Again, I'm talking about people who they don't do the activity. Okay. The assignment is to revise, to work on your paper one final time, and instead they just upload the same paper. How many points am I supposed to give for that? Honestly, like how many points am I supposed to give for uploading a file? Or uploading a file that has a few tiny changes, but there are big picture things that needed to be addressed. So be careful, because I really hate to do that. It's the most painful thing in the world to tell someone, listen, I have to invoke the 20-point penalty. In the past, there were instructors who would give it a flat out 0 with the reasoning, hey, you didn't do the assignments. I think that's a little bit harsh, but yeah, there is a penalty for not revising at all or not doing meaningful revision. Okay. I think that's about it. Questions, comments, anything? Like I said, this is just a wrap up of everything we need to. Did I cover everything? Yeah. Got one more journal to write. That should be easy. Peer review, which we just went over. Due Friday. I can't extend it. Bonus activity if you want to complete it, if you need to complete it. Then finally, to wait for feedback on your essay, revise, and yeah, you're good to go. So if you're comfortable with what we've gone over, you don't have to stick around. I appreciate you showing up, not just tonight, but for the entire month. It has been awesome. I'll, of course, hear from you probably other ways through messages and such. But I do thank you for showing up. The lectures have been a blast. And I'm honest what I said. I'm not just, blowing steam up your skirt or your shirt. This has been an awesome class. Like I cannot remember the last time so many students have been watching the lectures, have been reading the feedback, have been applying it, and just thank you. Thank you. Another compliment. Yeah, but listen, I love to give out A's. I love to pass students, and I love to give out A's and B's. I don't think this class is that difficult. I know there's a lot to do. I know there's a lot to keep up with. I understand that some students truly struggle with writing, so it's not that I'm not empathetic to that. But I do think that, I don't know, I think the class is set up in such a way that even if you maybe don't do as well as you would have liked on certain writing assignments, all those gimme points balance it out. Like you can be a C student on every single one of those writing assignments and still earn a B in the class if you take advantage of all those achieve modules in weekly journals, right? So I don't know. I just don't think the secret is doing the work. But the people in this class have been doing more than that. So I want to send out a big thank you to everyone. And hang in there. We're almost there, okay? The finish line is in sight. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I'm going to hang out for a bit, but it doesn't look like too many people have questions. Oh, Jean asked, she's taking English Composition 2 next month. Do you know how much harder is it? You know what? I don't. I know nothing about English Composition 2. I'm sorry. I wish I wish I. How is it that I don't know? It's because English Composition 1 is kind of like the one that everybody needs to take. And the person who sits near me teaches English Comp 2, but she's not here right now. I would have asked her. I do know that the assignments, yes, they are higher level assignments. And there is, for example, more focus on things like research. So yeah, in general, I can say that it is not a repeat of English Composition 1, but beyond that, I can't really say much more than that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.